Hi everyone, this is Sasha from Women's Fight News. Of course, we've got Susie from Women's Fight News also, and we've got Matt from Counterpunch. Matt, thanks
Hi.
for joining us.
No problem at all.
Right, it's been busy today. It's been very busy. So, Matt, let's start with you. The announcement was made. What did you think of it? And obviously, it's not come as a big surprise because it is the worst kept secret in boxing at the minute.
Yeah, I mean it's brilliant, isn't it? I think it's been talked about now for a couple of weeks. Well, the fight itself's been talked about for months. We've kind of known the date for a little while. I think we've kind of knew over the weekend that Mayer and Baumgardner was probably going to be chief support. I guess probably the left field thing, albeit it was speculated, is that it's an all-female card.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot to digest in kind of one afternoon, really. But I mean, it's a fantastic thing for women's boxing. It's a fantastic thing for boxing, full stop. You know, to have undisputed and unified fights on a card. It doesn't happen that often.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to rack my brain to think, when is the last time that a boxing card has had two co-main events that have had this much on the line? And I'm struggling. So I think following on from what happened in April with Taylor and Serrano, we're kind of straight back into two other monumental fights, and it's just brilliant for women's boxing, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. They both have so much on the line, don't they? And like another undisputed clash. Susie, where are we ranking it? And I don't want to compare it too much to like Taylor Serrano, even though I'm going to because you can't help it because it's a super fight. But like, where's your excitement comparing to?
You know, I'm the same. I don't like to compare because at the end of the day, all the fights are brilliant. We want to lift up all the female boxers. However, like you said, there is going to be a comparison. For me, if it was just Claressa and Savannah, then I'd probably still go with Serrano Taylor is the bigger fight. But by putting on Mayer and Baumgardner on the same night, making it an all-female card on Sky Sports, free to view, it could even be a bigger fight overall, you know?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm extremely excited because it's got all those elements to it and everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. The fact that it's on Sky as well rather than DAZN. Obviously, people still aren't a fan of DAZN and having the app. And like for me, with the fight Claressa Savannah, I think it appeals more to just casual fans and maybe not even fans of boxing yet. I think this is a good one to convert. I think the trash talking will help. The fact that they don't like each other, the history from the amateurs, all of that's going to help. Compared to, I think the Taylor Serrano fight was a fight for the fans. That was a fight for proper boxing fans. It was to determine who's pound for pound best. It was on an app, obviously for us in the UK, which people aren't a fan of. So the fact that it's on Sky Sports, it's free. People are still complaining, but we'll get on to that because that always just fascinates me. But with the fight, Matt, how do you see it going?
I think it'll be a tough fight. I mean, you know, I'm from the northeast. Obviously, I want Savannah Marshall to win. Can she go in there and knock Claressa Shields out? I'm not convinced. I think the problem is if this goes the distance, it's got Claressa Shields written all over it for me. So I think Savannah needs to knock her out. Interestingly, I think Peter Fury's come out and said it can't just be about power. She has to improve her boxing skills, and I would kind of agree with that to an extent. But I've got to back her, haven't I? I've got to back her to get the win. But I think if she's going to do it, I think she does have to stop Claressa Shields. She's a very smart fighter, fights well on the inside, very technical. But Savannah's got the power. So, you know, I think she's got every chance. But I do think probably the odds are stacked against her. But I do believe that she can do it on the night.
That's a good point, though, because I listened to Peter Fury in the press conference, and something I was quite surprised about, and I don't know whether it was kind of said without thinking, but he said, if Savannah gets beat, then she'll rematch Claressa in America, and I'll send someone else there, because obviously he can't get to America. Yeah. I think that's a very odd thing to say at a press conference for just for any fight in general. If that was my trainer sitting next to me and just bringing up, like, if I get beat, this is the plan, that isn't striking too much confidence for me. And I saw something slightly different in Savannah where she come out and said, you know, I'm actually a fan of Claressa, and, you know, spoke highly of her. And I think there's a mutual respect there between the two of them, but it's a side I've not seen in Savannah. And it was I don't want to say lacking of confidence, but it was definitely a strange comment on Peter's part. I don't know what you think, Susie.
Yeah, I mean, you can want to be, as a fighter, you want to be 100% in it. You're going to win. You can't even think about losing. A bit like there's that clip come out from the Gloves Off head to head. Don't know if you've seen that. That's gone around tonight.
We've seen a little bit, yeah.
Where, you know, Clarissa's saying, well, you've lost there straight away to Savannah, because when he asked her, have you thought about losing? Like, well, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, I'm erring on the side of Claressa. You want to be completely focused. You don't even want to think about losing. So, yeah, with your trainer saying that, you're going to think about losing, aren't you?
It was strange. And like, I don't know, because you can take it out of context, because at the same time, I think, because I was listening to it while in work, so, but I'm sure he come onto that conversation because he was said about, you know, Clarissa's coming to fight in the UK. And then I think he went on to say, well, and I think he was trying to basically say, well, we will go to America. But the way he worded it by saying, well, if Savannah gets beat, we'll go. And I was like, oh God, I'd be raging if that was me. So someone's put about Marshall's power. It will bother Shields. Shields will be over aggressive and get caught. Matt, with this, I'm sure you've seen loads of Claressa fight. And I do think, personally, I think she can have a tendency to try too hard for a knockout. And then she takes away herself from like a natural boxing ability.
Yeah.
If she'd done that, do you see Savannah stopping Claressa?
Yeah, I think she can. I mean, I kind of agree with you that the press conference today, for me, Savannah looked very nervous when they did the face-off right at the beginning before they started talking. But I think actually she grew in confidence as it went on, and immediately Claressa was rattled again. And she gets rattled at anything, doesn't she? It doesn't take a lot. But I think if she finds herself getting hit with a couple of hard shots in the early rounds, I think that, you know, Claressa's game plan can go out the window, and then, you know, she can start taking unnecessary risks. I mean, if she just boxes the way she normally boxes, Savannah possibly can't get anywhere near her. But if she takes unnecessary risks and gets caught and feels the power, then, you know, that's going to worry her. And I think then that's when, you know, Savannah can really push forward. And, you know, I don't see this being an early stoppage, but certainly in the later rounds that she could actually force her back and hurt her and stop her.
Yeah. And Susie, Claressa said, she was asked how she thought the fight would go, and she said she's going to outbox Savannah. And I think boxing wise, I do believe Claressa is the better boxer. To me, there's not much question about that. I do genuinely believe that. And Claressa said that she will stop Savannah in either round 8, 9, or 10. I love how specific she's like me. I'm always dead. I'm like the 7th round and the 23rd second. And so I love it. Now, can Claressa stop Savannah?
I mean, at the end of the day, they're elite boxers. You know, she has got power, but it hasn't been proven so far in a pro career, has it, really? She's more of someone who's extremely skilled and outboxes everyone, which is great. She's great at what she does. So I don't have an issue with that. But in terms of actually stopping Savannah, I really don't see that happening. If she's going to win, it's definitely going to be on points, I think.
And can Savannah outbox Claressa?
I don't think so, personally. I mean, it depends on, you know, if game plans, like Matt was saying, go out the window. Because at the end of the day, the mind games have started, haven't they?
Yeah.
So if Savannah gets into the head of Shields or vice versa, then I think it's going to go out the window, in which case Savannah could outbox her then, couldn't, you know, if Shields gets thrown. But no, in terms of just how they are at the best, both of them, I definitely think that Shields is the better boxer.
I found the last fight interesting with Savannah. So I think it was like a 4th round knockout. I could be wrong, but it was definitely quite an early knockout. But the first few rounds, Savannah struggled. Like, there was no question about it. She was in Newcastle. There was a big crowd. She was headlining. I don't know if the pressure got to her a little bit because and she came out and said herself the first few rounds were not great. She got hit a lot. She looked like she struggled on the inside. And then obviously she finished the fight with a massive knockout punch. And after that, everyone was like, oh my God, she's going to, you know, knock out Claressa. I think after that fight, Claressa would have had more confidence going into this fight, because I think Savannah showed quite a lot of weakness in that last fight. Equally, it's obviously something that Savannah can work on, because she did come out directly after the fight and say, you know, she was getting hit a lot. I think she aware to her, like, you know, I was made to look silly at times. So obviously she can work on things. But I definitely think Claressa goes in she's got to go in the favourite. I think she holds more belts. She's got that, all the accolades from the amateurs. And I think she goes in more confident. And obviously Savannah did have confidence issues as an amateur. Which she says herself, but she claims she's not experienced that as a professional. Matt, she's in London on this massive stage. Do you think there could be a point where Savannah could possibly choke under the pressure and not perform like we expect her to?
I mean, there's every risk, isn't it? It's a massive, massive fight, and I think she's used to fighting in front of a northeast crowd, and she's used to, and she'll still be the favourite here. Don't get me wrong, but you possibly have it mixed in with a few more casual boxing fans who go along, and there might not be that kind of role that she gets when she's fighting in Newcastle. So yeah, I mean, there's absolutely every chance that she will, but I don't. For me, it's who's more afraid of losing this fight. And you could argue both boxers are, but I think it would hurt Claressa Shields a lot more than it would hurt Savannah Marshall to lose. Because she's just hung up on avenging the defeat. She said it doesn't matter. She said she got 2 gold medals and she's the winner, but deep down that niggles her. So I think, yes, she can choke, but I think actually so can Claressa. It's a big occasion for her. It's her chance to avenge that defeat. It's her chance to collect all the belts. And, she's the self-proclaimed GOAT, but I guess if she does that and pulls it all off, then it probably becomes reality. So, yeah, I think both boxers could on that big stage, have a few nerves and, maybe a bit of trepidation going into the fight.
Yeah, see, I'm a little bit worried that the fight won't live up to the expectation because there's that much pressure on it. However, we all said that about Taylor and Serrano, and we were fine because that was unbelievable. Susie, Savannah has said to Claressa, I'm sure you've seen it in that face-to-face, of if Claressa loses, she thinks she'll retire. Johnny Nelson also said that. If Claressa loses, he thinks she will retire. I don't really get where all this is coming from. Like, she's a normal pet. Like, I'm sure she doesn't think she's going to lose, but she's a normal person. Like, I don't think she's going to run off and we'll never see her again. Let's say she lost this fight. What happens?
Do you know what? We saw how she lost in MMA. Yes, it's completely different. MMA is a different sport. She was at the beginning, but she took that loss so well.
Yeah,
she took it in a stride. She moves on. Yes, it would hurt her immensely, because this is what she wants so badly. She knows what kind of level she's at. But I think she would take it and would use that to push herself forward into something new, like either taking on other challengers or trying to go for a rematch. I don't see her retiring at all. She's young. I still think she's got a lot of fights ahead of her, definitely.
Yeah, it was just strange. Like, I didn't know where that had come from. The retirement is Savannah Marshall's. Savannah Marshall has come out multiple times and said that Claressa Shields will be her last opponent. I think win or lose, I truly believe that. It won't be like a Tyson Fury situation where we don't know if he's coming back or not. If Savannah wins, I'm sure there's a rematch clause regardless. Once that's happened, I think she'll retire. And then...
Which I don't get in a way. Because, yes, I get the fact that this would be like the toughest opponent she could face. Great, go out on high. However, going into this fight, let's not forget the experience of Claressa over Savannah Marshall is a huge difference. It's completely different. But what's exciting is knowing what level Savannah's at, the fact that she's got the KO punch power, the potential. Everyone knows the potential. But she hasn't done as much in boxing as Claressa has. So it's a shame in a way. I feel like that they're fighting now. I would like to have seen Savannah get a few more wins under her belt, get her own resume built up a bit more, her own sort of legacy before facing Claressa. So in some ways, if she does beat Claressa, I want to see her go on to make this big legacy and become a, even more of a legend in the sport,
I do agree. Like, to me, because I was literally talking about this before, like, I don't think Savannah has underachieved at all in the pros. I don't think she's overachieved either, but I think she's achieved what she has wanted to in the sport. I don't think she turned over wanting to create a massive legacy. And I don't know. I've just never got that impression when you've heard her in interviews or we spoke to her or she was on a podcast where I first heard that why she wanted to retire, and it was the fact that she's been in the sport since a kid. It's been a long road. You know, the amateurs really took her out of that. She's had a bit of a nightmare career actually as a pro, especially them early stages when she went off to America. It's not been easy, and I think she's just very much at the stage where she's like, you know, in my 30s. I'm a world champion. If I become undisputed, it's a bonus, and I've achieved what I want in the sport. And yeah, I think some people are in it for different reasons, and I truly believe that she has achieved what she wanted to prior to this fight. But now she's got the opportunity to make some good money for herself and sail off into the sunset. Matt, do you see her retiring after this fight?
I've heard the things she said, and I would tend to agree with you. I think there's every chance she will. And I think the problem is when you become undisputed, where do you go from there? You know, yes, there'll be a rematch, but if she was to win both of them, you know, you're looking at a different weight class potentially, or you're sitting around to slowly lose all your belts, like we're seeing with the other undisputed champions at the minute, because you can't physically defend them all. I know it's slightly different in women's boxing because, you know, there's not the level of competitors lined up to have those voluntaries. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, beat Claressa Shields twice, because I agree there must be a rematch clause certainly if Claressa Shields loses, there'll be a rematch clause. Make a lot of money in the process, and then go and enjoy the rest of your life. I see no reason why that, you know, I think she should continue, but I see every reason, can fully believe that she will call it a day at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we'd all love to see her continue, but then you also can't blame her. Because I think either way, if she loses and she rematches and she loses, then she's done everything she can. She's still one of the greatest. You know, she made top 10 pound for pound. She become world champion. She's had a fantastic career. If she wins, where does she go? I don't think she's got any intentions on fluctuating weight classes like we're seeing some of the girls moving 3-4 weight divisions. You know, she doesn't want to do that. So why not?
That's what really intrigues me about this fight is you've got, you know, almost two natural middleweights. You know, yes, they've kind of gone different divisions. Or certainly Clarissa's had a fluctuate between 1 or 2 weight divisions. But, you know, the Taylor Serrano, that was Serrano stepping up. And let's be honest, as great a spectacle as that fight was, nobody really envisaged it being as that good. Whereas I think everybody expects this to be brilliant, which is why I think, going back to your previous point, it could be underwhelming on the night because of the pressure that goes with that. But two middleweights fighting at the natural weight class, you know, I think it got all the ingredients to be a fantastic fight. Yeah,
that's a good point actually about them being like in their natural weight classes. I feel like we don't see that often at the minute at all. Like everyone's just jumping around because it's wherever a belt is. Like you can't blame people for doing it, but it is a good point. Susie, if you had to give a prediction, Claressa Shields, Savannah Marshall, who is winning, how, why, all of it?
You know what? I hate giving a prediction because I like them both for different reasons. I love Claressa. You know, for me, she is the quote. She's done so much for the sport. I've met her. She's such a lovely person as well that goes with it. So I've got a soft spot for Claressa. But obviously, Savannah, I mean, like you said, what she's achieved, the support she's got behind her, her power, she just keeps on winning and just keeps on knocking out, you know, and each step up, she's done what she needs to do. So I love them both. I'm probably going to edge it to Claressa because I think what will happen is she will outbox her because although Marshall's got the power, you can't use the power if you can't catch the person. And I think that's what could happen where she just can't catch Claressa and therefore she wins on points. However, if something happens on the night and Claressa does get caught, it is going to be game over, I think, for Claressa then.
Yeah, it is a good point. And obviously, Claressa hasn't faced the power that Savannah has, so we don't know how she will react to it. Equally, Savannah's never faced anyone like Claressa, so we don't know how she's going to react to it, which is what makes it so great. Matt, who is winning? How, what, when, why? All of it.
My head says Claressa Shields wins by unanimous points decision. But again, as I say, being a local lad in Savannah, you know, just living not too far down the road, I'll go for her with a late knockout.
Ooh, are you going to say around?
Round 9.
You're going to put it that time because you always like time as well.
What time? So between 1 second and
1
2
minute 43.
We'll see
I'll
what
have to put a bet on that now, Anna.
Now you'd be like, wow.
Yeah. I must say, like, I change my mind between this fight constantly because it's one of them. I actually don't think you'll know till the day. It really depends who can implement their tactics first, because I think the first couple of rounds are going to be a little bit slow. I think they have a lot of respect for each other. No matter how the trash talk goes, they have a lot of respect for each other. They both know how good they are. And I think we might have a slow 1 or 2 rounds, feeling it out, soaking it all in. I don't think it'll be the start like Taylor Serrano. I really think it'll be taking the time. And then I believe it's whoever implements the tactics first. The only thing for me is I think if Claressa does box, the issue Savannah will have is she's not the quickest on her feet. Whereas something I think is quite underrated for Claressa is how good Claressa's footwork is. And she not only will stop Savannah from being able to land massive punches, she will just, I think, probably frustrate Savannah, I think, at times if she's got her feet moving the way she does. Claressa can create quite nice angles off of shots and move in and out well. So I think not only that will stop Savannah from being able to land, I think it could stop Savannah from being able to just box her in general. For that reason, having said that, if Savannah goes in with her game plan, whichever that might be, but we know she's got that power. As soon as she's got Claressa on the ropes, for instance, how's Claressa going to react? And I think that's what's so intriguing about this fight. It could just be one punch and it's over. And you won't know that for the whole 20 minutes of the fight. And that'll always be in Claressa's mind. So, it's an interesting one. I'm going to have to sit on the fence. I'm not putting a bet on it. Obviously, another fight that was announced, Mikaela Mayer, Alycia Baumgardner. I want to start with a question that I need someone to answer for me, just anyone in the whole world. What has happened? So obviously, Alycia Baumgardner is signed with DAZN and Matchroom. That's still the case. They've tweeted out about it today. What have Sky Sports done to get this fight not on their platform? Does anyone have an idea?
Money?
Yeah.
I paid quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the only way around it, because they seem quite happy with it now, DAZN, don't they? They were tweeting about it earlier. And
yeah, and so I'm glad they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good. And I think I know something Matchroom weren't very happy about with the Taylor Serrano fight was the fact that Sky Sports weren't promoting it. So, and I know that ended up being like a massive issue, which was a bit silly, but it's I think everyone should promote everything because it's just good, for the sports in general. Someone's just put the Top Rank connection. So I am aware of that, but I was just surprised that it wasn't, because obviously this fight in its own right could headline, in my opinion. Would it sell out the O2? I don't know, because they're not obviously UK fighters. They don't have, but they've got a growing platform. But this could have been, a massive fight in America on Matchroom or DAZN. So I'm just interested to know what's gone on. Matt, are you liking the fact that this is an undercard, or would you have preferred it to have been on its own, its own show?
I think it's a massive fight. I think it would have been good to have seen it on its own show. I think the difficulty with both those fighters is, could they sell out America? Are they that popular in America, or does it make sense for them to have a fight in the UK? And if they're going to have a fight in the UK, what better platform to do it on? I think in terms of the promoters, I think it's great to see a bit of cross-promotional activity.
Yeah.
Your Boxer have got a fantastic female stable now. Eddie's obviously got, a massive female stable over at Matchroom. So it is good to see these, whether it's money or whatever, kind of differences be put aside and then promoting the fights across all the promoters. I think that at the end of the day, boxing wins when that happens. It doesn't happen enough for me. So I think that's really, really positive to see. But I think, it would have been great to see it on its own show. But I think if you're going to do an all-female card and you're going to go down that route, you need 2 massive fights, possibly 3. They've got the 2 biggest ones there. So we'll probably come on to the rest of the undercard at some point. But I guess, it sells itself. So I can understand from a commercial point of view, it makes sense. How they're making the money on it, when it's not going to be pay-per-view, it's going to be standard Sky subscription. That'll be an interesting one to find out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll talk about that in a bit, actually, because that is something I'm interested to know of as well. Susie, are you happy it's on the same card? Yes, no, maybe?
I've got mixed feelings, because obviously, as a women's boxing fan, then I want to see all women's boxing fights. I love it. I can see them all day, every day. I'm quite happy. But in terms of spreading it out a bit, it would have been nice because, like I was saying, it would sell on its own. Without it would have been quite nice to have two massive nights. Because what I'm worried about as well is with this fight, it just being a little bit lost compared to Claressa and Savannah, and I don't want them overlooked because this is a huge fight. They've got, it's exciting. It's going to be, skillful. We might have a knockout as well there, and they're heated. The amount of Twitter beef they've had, all the elements there, and I just don't want it to be forgotten about. But in terms of bringing eyes to the sport, then I can't really complain because bring it all on. Let's have a mega night. Let's celebrate the sport. Great.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? Like, I do think there's just pros and cons. Like you say, it is in its own right a headline fight in theory, but business-wise, I don't know if it is because, we're a lot better in this country than maybe America at promoting women's boxing. I think we are ahead of times, really. That's why we're seeing, I think, a lot of Americans coming here. And, Mayer and Baumgardner have been very excited about coming here, and they've been growing their UK platform over the past, 6 to 12 months, which is great for us and a shame for America. And it shows what they're missing out on, really, because I think they've just missed out on a massive headline, but it wouldn't make money to headline in America. Equally, it couldn't headline in this country because they are just still growing their fan base. They've not quite got it yet. So what's great is hopefully this show will give them that platform. So their next few fights, and Mayer's talking about moving up to lightweight. So there could be massive fights for her down the road. Same for Baumgardner. So hopefully their time will then come that they can headline because they're both, definitely skilled enough, talented enough, the right personality as well. Like Susie said, like the beef. I live for it. So the first thing I check when I get up, I'm like, what's happened with them too? I just love it. So I do just love it. So, and like you say, I mean, it's great for us fans because, I'll put them all on the one night. In principle, like that is great. And like I say, it should get some more fans. Who do you see winning this one, Matt?
I'm going to back Mikaela Mayer on this one. I just think, we've seen her go to the trenches before. The Hamadouche fight was, definitely fight of the year. Last year now, I think, was it? Losing track of time.
Yeah.
And I think she's just got that experience. I think it'll be a hard fight. I think it'll be a really, really hard fight. I think this one goes the distance, and I think she gets a points victory.
Yeah, it's that Mayer Hamadouche fight was unreal, and I couldn't remember whether it was the beginning of this year or last year because I get awfully confused with my times all the time. And it was last year, and I think I watched it at least 20 times because it was just that good. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. Susie, who is winning this one?
Do you know what? I completely agree with everything Matt just said, to be honest. I edge it towards Mikaela Mayer because of those reasons, really. But I do feel like Alycia's a bit of a dark horse. We don't fully know what she's capable of because that, no one expected her to come out and do what she did against Terry Harper. And she's not just got the power, she's got some great boxing skills. She's very slick. So I feel like if she's, is she capable to keep stepping up? Because if she then steps up again, what's she capable of? Can she do a little bit more? And it could end up being a very, very good fight. This could be a fight of the year fight for me.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, I hope it doesn't go like it's not overshadowed. I know the main fight is Marshall Shields, but I really want us to talk, like everyone to talk about this fight as the co-main event because it's that good. I change my opinion on this fight all the time because I remember voice noting you, Susie, and I was like, I've got it. I know who's going to win. And my theory was I was edging towards Baumgardner. For the sole reason at the time was I don't know whether Mikaela Mayer could be weight drained like we saw in Terry Harper. Mayer has mentioned so many times that this is going to be her last fight at super feather. She's moving up and, I think she said, 1 year she's doing lightweight and then, she's going to move up each year, each division. I mean, who knows? So she could just jump up 4 divisions like they're all doing. But either way, this will be her last fight. So my only concern is can she still comfortably make the weight, because we did see in Terry Harper, she made the weight on the scales, but she just wasn't meant to be that weight. So that's my only thing. Apart from that, I definitely think, if you look at Mayer, I think she does have more experience. The Hamadouche fight, she would have learned more in that fight than she did in all of her previous fights. And I think we see with Mayer genuinely like massive improvements every fight. Whereas obviously with Baumgardner, it's a little bit in the unknown, because like you said, Susie, she kind of, I don't want to say she just appeared against Terry Harper. She's grafted, and she's done a lot in the amateurs, and she grafted as a pro. But, to us as fans, it was kind of a shock. Yeah. Whereas with Mayer, we've seen like that progress. So I think it might be easier to back Mayer because of that. But what she showed Mikaela Mayer in that Hamadouche fight was she can literally do it all. She can box, she can use the jab, she uses her range, she can fight on the inside, and she does have power. So she can do it all. Mikaela Mayer spoke today in their like Zoom press conference and said that Alycia Baumgardner is a good fighter, but she's only good at one thing, and she's one-dimensional. Would you say that's true, Matt?
No, I don't think so. I think that's just a typical kind of press conference comment. I think, you're right, Alycia Baumgardner, she's got a good pedigree. We've never really seen her in a huge test, because we expected it from the Terry Harper fight, and it was over quite quickly. So no, everything you've just said about her in terms of the ability she's got, I think she poses a real problem for Mikaela Mayer. I think her ring experience and knowledge and some of the battles she's been in, I'll see her through on the night.
Mm-hmm. So who are you going for, and how is that fight finishing?
So I'll go for Mikaela via points.
Can I ask? Because I like to be super specific.
Unanimous.
What's going to be? What's each judge going to score it?
Now, I'm not very good at maths off the top of my head, so
it's going to be
I think it'll be a close fight. I think it'll be. I don't think you'll see wide scorecards.
No.
But I think Mikaela will win it by unanimous decision.
Mm-hmm. Susie, what are you thinking?
I'm going to probably go exactly the same, actually. But you know what? Mikaela does step up every single fight. Wouldn't even put it past her stopping Alycia in this being one of the fights where she does a statement fight and knocks her out. Why not? I think probably points, but just...
No, you can't backtrack now you've said that. You can't go all out and then run away.
Stepping up, and she wants to prove something here, so I think Mikaela's going to do it.
If it's a stoppage, what round?
It's going to be a late round. So probably I reckon about 8.
Ooh, interesting. I mean, it's a good point though, because everyone will talk about if it's a stoppage, it'll be Baumgardner because of what we've seen. But like you say, Mayer steps up every time, and like both of these fights, it's hard to tell sometimes because they're just going to bring the best out of each other. That's what's great. This will be, all 4 of them, it'll be the hardest camp because it's the hardest opponent, and it'll bring something different.
You know what? Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, go on, Matt.
I was going to say, I think actually, I know we talk about could this have stood upon its own as a separate fight, and I think it absolutely could in the UK. But actually, there's less pressure on these two now because of what is the main event in sort of Shields and Marshall. Mm-hmm. So actually, you might see a better performance from these two because of that. Because of the fact that there's technically the technically part of the undercard, albeit co-main event. Yeah,
that's such a good point, actually.
Yeah, and do you know what I love about why I feel like it could be a stoppage for Mikaela is because I love her story. Like, how you said she steps up. I feel like she's had so many sort of negative comments from the beginning of her career. When she sort of first came along, everyone used to say, "Oh, she's just the golden girl. She's getting these opportunities. She's this type of fighter. She's like an amateur star. She can't do it. She's rubbish. She's at a certain level." And each time she's proved everybody wrong. And the way that she went to Hamadouche and proved that she had it all is just, I love that kind of progression. And wouldn't it be such a great story for her to then knock out Alycia in this last fight at this weight? That's why I think it'd be just such a nice story and a nice ending for it.
You're going on the fairy tale.
Yeah.
I suppose, for me, what's going to be a shame is, though, let's say Mayer wins. she will have to leave the division without being undisputed because Choi is still holding the belt and it infuriates me. So I think it was Rack that put on, like, is someone just going to buy, like, just pay Choi off?
Yeah.
Because we see it all the time. Why has she got the belt? She's been offered umpteen times to fight. She didn't want Harper again after the injury. She then didn't want, I think it was Mayer first. No, didn't want that one. Then she didn't want Baumgardner, and they're both signed with Matchroom. So I'm not being funny. If that fight can't be made, she's not fighting anyone. So take the belt off her.
But for
It's
me,
just not a typical WBA situation, though. You know, we're seeing this in the male division at the minute, aren't we? With, you know, Lee Wood trying to get a fight. Exactly the same's happening.
But
Get a fight, get it made, give a deadline. If it doesn't happen, just strip her, or, you know, as being said, just give her a wedge of money and get her to step aside and give her a guaranteed fight against the winner.
But this is it. Like, I don't understand why she's allowed to hold the belt. I'm not being funny. How many times are you going to say no? Because she has literally outright said no to several fights, to several different fighters, to different champions. Why is she allowed to hold back an entire division? An entire division because she doesn't want to fight. I don't understand it. It is so annoying.
And for me, regardless of the belts, this is an undisputed fight. I don't care, you know, if she holds the belt. That's just ridiculous. So for me, this is undisputed. I don't care what happens afterwards. If I have a little fight after, this is the one.
That's what I mean. So let's say then, because this is what I was trying to work out. Let's say Mayer wins. What'll be quite funny is Mayer will win, and she will then vacate because she's going to move up, and then Choi is the only left champion in the division, which will just piss me off anyway, but because she won't fight anyone. Now, let's say Baumgardner wins. Then it's like an anticlimax in a way, because to become undisputed, you've got to fight Choi, who's not wanted to fight, who's not a big draw, she's not a big seller. And then that's your undisputed fight. Whereas really on this platform, it's going to be one of the biggest fights in boxing, or biggest shows in boxing, biggest show for female boxing, and you're not fighting for undisputed. I just think it's outrageous.
Yeah, definitely.
Very upset. But what I was saying before that, I reminded myself of that and got myself all worked up, is that I am going for a Mikaela Mayer decision, because I think it's going to go 4-4. And then I think Mayer's experience is going to get her them last 2 championship rounds, I believe. And I just think she's got the slight more tools of being able to control the pace a little bit more. I do really love watching Baumgardner box. She is nice, like you said, Susie, like nice and fluid. And I like the way she moves. I like the way she keeps her left hand nice and tight. And, you know, I do like watching her. But yeah, for me, I just think Mayer's got the control to change the pace when she wants, control the distance. And when she wants to work on the inside, she can do. But again, it's one of them, because Baumgardner can punch. We know she can, so could she knock her out? I don't know. So obviously the announcement, but it wasn't really an announcement. It was quite an underwhelming one, of Ben Shalom kind of casually saying it's an all-female card and then swiftly talking about something else. But what I thought was going to be a bit of a bigger deal was the fact that this is an all-female card. I've got mixed opinions on it. I think we all have, actually. Matt, I'm going to put you under pressure and start with you first. What are your thoughts on this all-female card?
I would have preferred to have seen a mix of fights on there. I think, you know, we're talking about, I guess, in the wider scheme of quality. And I think, you know, it's great to have those 2 massive fights as main events. But I think it would have been nice to have seen a mix of other fights. Maybe, you know, another 2 female fights and a couple of male fights in there as well. And an opportunity maybe for boxer to stick some of their up and coming, you know, female fighters on there, but also a couple of the young starlets from the male division. But I understand why they've gone down this route. I understand that, you know, they're riding the success of what happened in New York, and you know, it's a great card. It'll be a great card. I'm sure they'll fill it with great fights and great prospects. But for me, I would have probably preferred to see a bit more of a mix.
Yeah. And Susie, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. It's all boxing, isn't it? That's what we want the label of. So therefore, it should be the right mix of boxing, whether it's regardless, you know, if it's male or female, whatever sort of suits the show. It shouldn't just be female because they're female. But you know, I'm not going to complain at the same time, because I'm quite happy to watch all female fights. But I do worry that it is going to turn some male boxing fans off because they'll just go, I'm not going to watch it, even if they would have enjoyed it. You know, if there'd been a couple of male fights on there, they might have watched them and then stayed to watch the rest. So I do worry that we're going to turn some of those people off which would have watched. But equally, you know, that's what they're going with. So I'm going to get behind it and just enjoy all the female fights.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Like, I have mixed opinions, and I think initially I would have just preferred a split card. Like, you know, I keep putting on Twitter, the ideal situation for boxing or any sport is everything to be 50-50 because that's what equality is. I worry that we've jumped the other way now. And someone put on, or quite a few people put on Twitter, like, oh, well, we don't moan when it's an all-male card. I do. I can tell you all the time, I am the first to moan when there's not a female on that card. So people then do have the right in theory to moan that there's no males on this card. And it's, yeah, you know, like you say, boxing's one sport, isn't it? So I just worry that it's going to go to split. But to achieve equality, maybe, you know, this could be the step in the right direction. Maybe we do have to go too far the other way and then pull it back to make it equal. You know, they're trying something new, and in all fairness, like, we are still at a very early stage in women's boxing where it's still not overly appreciated. It's still got a lot to work on. So, you know, I suppose why not give it a go? My only concern really was, and it has happened on Twitter, everyone's talking about the fact it's an all-female card and whether they like it or not, opposed to the actual fight. And then everyone, you know, obviously you have your dinosaurs and they're like, well, I'm not going to buy a ticket. You weren't going to anyway. These people that say it, I can guarantee 95% of them have never bought a ticket to watch any form of boxing in their entire lives. So whether it was male or female, they weren't going. So no one cares. But that's the only thing. I just think it gives like those dinosaurs like a right to complain. Having said that, they're always going to do it. And if we have some prospects on, which I presume we will, we'll talk about this in a minute because I'm presuming financially they might have to put some prospects on. Then what a way to showcase and actually gain new fans. And the good thing about it being on Sky Sports is like they must have so much money. And I suppose making this an all-female can then broaden your audience because it's a talking point. Even if you don't like boxing, we're not talking about boxing now. We're talking the fact that it's about equality. We've got all these women on the show. So maybe that was the angle they were going for, possibly. I don't know, but we'll see. But like I say, like you said, Susie, like, you know, say they have 6 fights on, I get to see 6 female fights in one night, like happy days. Because sometimes, you know, we don't get to see that in a month, you know, across like Matchroom and Boxer. So I'm quite happy. So Matt, it's an all-female card. We know who the 2 undercards are. Who either would you like to see joining them, or who do you think will be joining them on the undercard?
I would love to see Hannah Rankin face either Terry Harper or Natasha Jonas on there, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think we're bound to see either Lauren or Karis fight on there. I know they said earlier in the week that they'll never fight on the same card, so I guess it's one or the other.
But why is that? I don't understand that.
I mean, I think they were talking, I think it was Steve Bunce's podcast, to say that the nerves of, if you were having a fight the same night, you know, if Lauren was fighting the same night as Karis, for example, she'd be too nervous. She'd lose focus on her own fight.
Yeah.
I can kind of understand that. I think probably as well, does it take the shine away a little bit if they're always on the same card? Maybe. So I can kind of understand the reasons for doing that. But one of them will definitely, I would imagine one of them will definitely be present on this card. Caroline Dubois, will she be on there?
Good shout.
I suspect you'll probably get one of those 3, or 2 of those 3 rather, on the card. It comes down to budget in terms of whether you get another, you know, not quite co-main event, but top fight. And I guess the sort of Hannah Rankin versus whichever opponent ends up being possibly puts that then onto another card. So I think we'll certainly see some of those names on there. And again, I guess, you know, Boxer, I guess, are the ones holding all the cards here because they're the ones with a big female stable. Top rank bring one fighter, really. I know they have other fighters that are affiliated and that have fought on their cards before. So I would imagine also we might see, you know, some other Americans travel across and be present.
Yeah, which I'd quite like to see as well. I would like to see some of the Americans be able to get their opportunity and get a big platform. Susie, do you have either any guesses to who could be on, or just who would you like to see on the card?
No. Other than I would love
Say no.
No, obviously everybody. That's what I mean. Everybody. There's no one in particular. Obviously, ranking against either Natasha Jonas or Terry Harper would be great. But if it's going to be Terry Harper, I don't see it being, because of Terry Harper being Matchroom and ranking being Fight Zone. So it'd be a case of Sky Sports having to be by two fighters that aren't their own.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure we're going to see that. But I'm trying to think of what would be the next biggest fight. And I can't really think of one of their stable that would be the next biggest.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're building up Lauren more than Karis at the moment. So I'd imagine they'd probably want to put Lauren on over Karis. Just because of the way that they were building her so much in their sort of both their debuts. I'd quite like to see Shannon Ryan come out.
Good shout, yeah.
And also, Mikaela Mayer loved going out with Ginny Fuchs, isn't it? Was on undercard on the last fight, and they're like best friends.
Yeah.
I imagine Mikaela Mayer saying, "I'd love for her to come across," you know, all. So I could imagine seeing her on the undercard, because I feel like they want to get a balance and get yet another one like over. So I think she's probably going to be on the undercard as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. I did think that could be a possibility. I don't think we'll have a third big fight, just like Matt was saying. I think for financial reasons, because obviously this is free, it's on Sky Sports, so it's not pay-per-view. So straight away that takes a little bit of them, but quite a lot of the money away compared to it being pay-per-view. You imagine if Taylor and Serrano both hit over 1 million in their fight, you imagine Savannah and Claressa are coming close, if not the same as that. Plus, you imagine Baumgardner and Mayer are earning a fair bit. They're not getting paid just a couple of pennies, are they? So, obviously the money then comes from advertisements and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see, would we have a third big fight on? Don't see it being Hannah Rankin, because someone's actually just asked. Rankin says she was looking at better offers than Jonas. So I don't see, I think we spoke about this last week, didn't we, Susie? I highly doubt we'll see Hannah Rankin, Tasha Jonas fight. Tasha Jonas has said she wants to fight in Liverpool, and I believe there's going to be a show in Liverpool on the 3rd of September, the week before. We don't think we'll see Tasha Jonas on it. I think we'll see Hannah Rankin off to Matchroom to fight Terry Harper in the end of September, I believe, or beginning of October. So I think we'll have them two big fights. Now, I do believe it'll be a night of prospects, but they'll have to be careful in this, I think, in the sense of we can't be having a prospect against a journeywoman for like 5 fights and then 2 main fights, because I think that'd just be a bit of a disaster in the sense of, not for fans, because we know why that happens, but for your general audience, which I believe they're targeting for this. I don't think you can have fights that are 90-10 split. Like you need close fights. So I don't know. That's why I'm a bit like I'm unsure. Like, I think financially prospects make sense, but then to appeal to the wider audience, you'd have to risk these prospects actually fighting like 50-50 fights very early on. So I can't decide yet. And they've not mentioned anything. That's what I thought would be announced today, like a couple of people on the undercard. And no one said anything. I didn't understand what the point of the press conference was.
I just hope we do find out soon. It's not one of these where we have to wait till like the week before or something,
Yeah.
Or when we find out a couple, like who's fighting, but we don't know their opponents until God love them. Either do the fighters, like they turn up and like weigh in and they still don't know who they're fighting.
Yeah.
Oh God, absolutely ridiculous. So will it sell out? Susie, let's start with you. People have said, and I got myself into all bits of bother on Twitter again, because I was like, you don't think it won't sell? Like, you're not a boxing fan. And I had someone go, what? This bird doesn't know what she's talking about. And I was like, classic. I don't, but don't call me on it. So will it sell out, Susie?
Yeah. So obviously I saw your comment and I've done a bit of a retweet on that. So yeah, I definitely think it sells out because of the way it's all set up. I mean, they've been building this fight between Shields and Marshall for some time, so there's a lot of interest in it, and there's a lot of interest amongst lots of fans. You know, not just women's boxing fans. They've been building this on Sky Sports, so a lot of people are aware of this fight, even sort of the casuals, the male boxing fans. So I think people are going to tune in for this fight because of the bad blood between them, and because there's that potential KO. People love a KO. So I feel like people are going to watch it, even think it's going to be exciting, so they're going to tune in. It's only going to get bigger because they're going to really focus in their attention on this fight. I think Sky Sports, we're going to hear a lot about it. Plus, then obviously with a massive co-main, you know, not just one mega fight, but obviously Mayer and Baumgardner. So we add in that as well. I just don't see it not selling out, to be honest. I think it's going to be in demand, if anything. Plus, then it's not pay-per-view. Everyone's going to tune in. You know, why not? It's free.
Yeah, exactly. And people still moaned, and I thought, I don't know what more you want. It's free. I don't. People just moan for the sake of moaning. Matt, is it going to sell out?
Yeah, I think I agree with Susie. I think it will. I think not wanting to harp back and make comparisons again, but I think if you take the Taylor Serrano fight, I think that was New York was the perfect venue for that fight because you've got a massive Irish contingent in there, and you've got a massive Puerto Rican contingent in there. So whilst there was a lot of there was a lot of general fans there as well, I think that was always going to sell out, I believe, and with the promotional activity behind it, obviously, you put Jake Paul and Eddie Hearn in front of a microphone and they can sell pretty much anything. I think it is going to be that promotional activity, though. I think it will get people through the door, but they've got to ramp that up. And it can't be a case that Claressa goes back to America now and we don't see her again for a couple of months. They've got to continue to build that narrative for the forthcoming future. But yeah, for me, it sells out.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I do believe it sells out 100% because I just don't believe they'd put it on if it wasn't to sell. So when people are saying it's not going to sell, like, such and such can't sell and all of that, well, yeah, that comes down to promotion, like you've just said, Matt, but I don't think they would be risking it all because it is a risky, an all-female card is risky. You're open to criticism straight away. I don't believe they would do all of that and then go, it might sell, it might not. We might only sell 10,000. That's not happening. They just wouldn't put it there. It's as simple as that. So it's a 20,000 arena, very similar to Madison Square Garden. I think it's virtually like 100 capacity difference. That's it. And it's in London. Like, of course it's going to sell. I know people wanted it in Newcastle, but I am happy it's in London. I think a slightly more neutral ground. I know, Matt, you won't be because it's further to travel. I feel your pain. But, it's slightly more neutral ground, fair enough. But for me, it sells 100% ticket-wise. I just really hope, like you were saying, Matt, with the promotion, like, it gets so many eyes on the TV. Like, people who've never tuned into boxing before. And if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Sky Sports because they've got the money. They've got so many different avenues. Like, how many different sport channels does Sky Sports have now? Like, there's Sky Sports Golf, Sky Sports Box. Like, there's every sport, there's a channel. So, they're putting adverts on. Obviously, they'll link to other things, Sky News and all of that. Like, there's just too many opportunities for this to not sell out and to not be a huge watch. I just don't see that happening. Like I say, the fact it's not pay-per-view, you're just opening it up to I know you've still got to pay a Sky subscription, but there's not much more you can do about that. They're not going to put it on BBC, are they? So this is as accessible as it gets realistically in sport. So I think as long as it's pushed and marketed right, I think it could hit massive numbers, like really big numbers.
Also on Twitter, I don't know if you saw, someone made a comment on one of your posts, Sasha, about mainstream media, and he made a comment saying that at lot fights you get sort of mainstream, not just YouTubers, the hardcore fans, but the mainstream sort of people that want to know about the male boxing fight. Don't see female ones at the presses. And so I made a comment saying, well, hopefully this opens up some avenues and gets people more interested in women's boxing. And I think with it being an all-female card, that probably means people are going to be more interested. I can imagine some mainstream female sort of type media would like the angle of the sort of the girl power all-female and take it on and hopefully run with it. And maybe that will bring more eyes to the sport.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, with especially like the media side. And I do think that's why they've looked to do this as the all-female is it's an easier selling point than just saying we've got Claressa and Savannah, because if you don't follow boxing, you don't particularly know who they are. But what you can do is, right, we've got these two and we've got an entire female card. They're claiming like they're the first to do in British boxing. Apparently, like, I think it's been done on small hall shows. Apparently, like, there was a bit of back and forth, but you know, on a massive platform, they're the first to do it, you know, in British boxing. So there's your, like, you know, your USP to go out to other people and other target audiences. And like I say, you know, on top of the Taylor Serrano, with these two fights, because I think they have to be treated fairly equally. What a huge year for women's boxing. And it's 2022. It feels like it's taken so long to get to this point. And I think we'll look back in 10 years and go, oh my God, can you believe that we were like hyped up over just two big shows and now we get them every month? But like at this moment, how good is it? Matt, last question, because I've just thought, and I don't know the answer, so I want to know yours. Last super fight was in April. This is a super fight. Is there anything else in your head that you think in women's boxing, like the next super fight potentially? And I'm putting you massively on the spot because I'm interested to know.
Katie Taylor fighting anybody in Ireland?
Right, good point. And is that going to happen though? Because it's not happening in September, is it?
No, I mean, I think I would be disappointed if she retired without having a big fight back home. I mean, it'd be interesting, you know, if Mikaela Mayer moves around weight classes after this, could those two meet at some point? So, I mean, obviously, the obvious thing is Serrano to fight Taylor again, isn't it? I mean, that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Let Amanda dust herself down, have this fight in August, and then maybe at some point next year, those two get it back on and do it in Ireland.
Yeah.
That's the one that jumps to mind for me.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, realistically, that's a fight I'd like to see. Susie, can you think of a potential super fight on top of the ones we've had?
Probably the only one I think of is Chantel Cameron McCaskill.
Yeah. Sorry about that one.
Because obviously I'd love to have Chantel to face Katie Taylor, but that's never going to probably happen. That this seems to be some sort of sounds that both want to face each other now, McCaskill after her latest win. So they're both sort of free for a fight because obviously Chantel's not going to be facing Kaylee Reese anytime soon. So why not? What great fight that would be in its place.
That's a good shout, actually. And that's potentially one that we could see this year. Because I think, like, Matt, like you, I'd love to see Taylor Serrano, but realistically, I think that'd be next year now. Yeah. But actually, that's one. And could you imagine if we add that onto the year? What a year then for women's boxing if we could then realistically you've had 4 mega fights. Plus, we still don't know what's going on with Hannah Rankin. Like, it's not the same caliber as super fight, but it's still a huge fight, regardless of whether Hannah Rankin unifies with Tasha Jonas or whether she takes the Terry fight. That's a huge fight for British boxing. So actually, and then I always think like you've got all these prospects, like in a couple of years, like look at the featherweight division. You know, could we have Raven Chapman, Sky Nicholson, or Karis? And how exciting. I love it. I'm all here for it.
Getting more and more exciting because, like you say, when you were saying, in a few years, we'll be like, wow, that year, well, you know, we're excited over a couple of fights. I'm thinking, how can you top this year? But you're right. You know, it's just better and better and better.
That's what's exciting, isn't it? Like, this is obviously the biggest year ever in women's boxing, hands down. But I really think in like 2 years' time, we'll go, well, we've topped that already. Because that's the thing. It's still quite a fresh sport, I think, anyway. And, you know, every year should get better and better and better. And there's so many prospects coming through now, as well as so many of these fighters. Okay, I know we spoke about Savannah potentially retiring. But, you know, the rest of them, they're still here for a long time. Hopefully Katie's still here for a little bit longer as well. Like, some big fights to be made. We could be talking about a prospect now who fights like one of the old timers, like in a couple of years. Like, it's just so exciting. So I'm all excited. Last question, Matt. Will you be there on September 10th?
I will try to be there, yes.
You can't try, you've got to be.
Certainly going to try to be there, yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I was fortunate enough as you were to be in New York for Taylor Serrano, and what an event that was. I just think this has got the potential to be, to have better fights on it. I'm not, you know, that in terms of the build-up, I think obviously that became a brilliant fight. So, you know, I certainly did do my best to be there.
Susie, are you going to be there September 10th?
I've already booked a hotel, so I'm hoping Sky Sports boxer, I hope you let me and Sasha be media because so I booked the hotel just in case. I'm hoping. You know what else is exciting? I was saying this to you earlier. Is that how many fights have we gone to where we've got like one female fight on the card? We're sat there all waiting to report on the one fight. We go backstage or whatever, and we try and interview those two fighters. It's very limited opportunity, and we see all the other media rushing off to interview, right and centre, all the male fighters. And this time we get that experience. We just have so much we could be doing, so many people we could be reporting on and interviewing. It'd be just amazing.
Yeah, that's so true. I think a lot of the other media think I'm really lazy because I do just sit and chill for most of the night. I get to watch all the fights because I only have to go backstage for like one fight, and I just get to sit and enjoy. But yeah, I think it'll be a busy night. Now we all need to keep your fingers crossed that I can change my holiday. So Tui, if you're listening, give me that cheap move to move my flight a couple of days, and then I'm going to be there.
Because this fight is designed for us to go and report on, Sash. You know, this is what what we want. So who
needs Portugal? Thank you both so much. Really enjoyed our chat. It's great to have you on, Matt, as well. Welcome on
been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Don't just leave it for a big announcement because they are few and far between at the minute.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking forward to the build-up. So it's something I feel like every week now, because obviously we do weekly roundups all the time. I feel like we are going to mention between the two of these fights, there's going to be murder happening every week. So I just can't wait. Right. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.